I'm Sacramento County District Attorney Tin Ho. Thank you for listening to the Justice Journal podcast. This podcast series engages our community in issues that impact public safety and shares how our office is ensuring justice in the courtroom and in the community while achieving our mission of Semper Justitia, which in Latin means always just.
Welcome to the Justice Journal podcast. I'm your host, Shelley Oreo. This episode is the second of a four-part series focusing on DUI offender accountability and consequences. Today, we're featuring Bridges Professional Treatment Services to discuss their DUI offender programs and how they help hold convicted DUI offenders accountable while also helping to prevent repeat offenders. So joining me today are Christy Knudsen, the Executive Director of Bridges Professional Treatment Services, and Kayla Uris, Program Manager for Bridges Outpatient and the Bridges DUI program. I'm also joined by our lead Deputy District Attorney, Gregory Hayes. Can I have you all introduce yourselves and just give a little bit of your background and your current roles? And Christy and Kayla, I'm going to start with you.
All right, my name is Christy Knudsen. I'm the Executive Director for Bridges. We have been in business since 1998. I joined as the executive director right around 2015. Before my role was working in accounting and helping out with the accounts payable. Before that, I actually held a career in sales management with a large consumer products company. And my husband actually helped start Bridges. So that's how we got this going back in 1998. So we started small and moved forward. But yeah, so we've been in business for 25 years.
Great. Kayla?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kayla Uris, and I joined Bridges in 2006 and started various duties around the office and kind of have worked my way over to managing both our DUI program and our outpatient program now.
Great. And Gregory?
My name is Gregory Hayes. I'm a Deputy District Attorney here at the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office. I've been a Deputy District Attorney for over 9 years now, coming up on 10 years later this year. I'm currently assigned to our misdemeanor unit, and I am the lead Deputy District Attorney related to DUIs. Specifically, I am the grant-funded prosecutor assigned to the Office of Traffic Safety Grant for DUI and drug DUI prosecution, education, and outreach. As part of the grant, I help organize, along with Shelley, 4 podcasts regarding issues related to driving under the influence. And this is part 2 of a 4-part series for this particular grant year. The funding for this program was provided by a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Before we really get into the details of the programs, Christy or Kayla, can you give us some background on Bridges Treatment Services, meaning what is the overall mission and the goals and some of the programs that you guys provide? And from what I researched, it's not just DUI related. It sounds like there's other areas that you also service.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work closely with Sacramento County as far as system of care and with the substance use division. So that involves working with the family treatment courts. We also work with other courts, the offender programs, the DUI treatment court, co-occurring mental health court. And then in addition to that, we have outpatient program, we have sober living programs, drug testing, the DUI school. So we're involved in an array. I mean, our goal is basically to meet clients where they're at, no matter what stage in that, whether they're just starting their treatment journey or they're at the end of their treatment journey, meaning that be in the sober living or at the beginning when they're just starting an outpatient program. So we offer the array of treatment. And again, we're all about meeting the client where they're at, treating everyone with respect and dignity.
Kayla, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think Christy hit all of our main points. It's really nice to be able to work alongside Christy with all of the different modalities of treatment that we do offer.
So let's then dive into the DUI offender specific programs. This is going to focus on court-ordered DUI offender programs where a defendant has been convicted of a DUI. My understanding is that defendants must enroll in a California DUI offender program if convicted of a DUI or what is called a wet driving offense,
Yeah.
or if it's ordered by the California DMV for suspended licenses. Greg, I'm going to ask you to explain the different DUI charges and penalties, just to give us a basis of DUI convictions.
Sure. So there are a few different DUI charges and penalties that exist under California law. The two main ones that we see in misdemeanors are a violation of California Vehicle Code Section 23-152 subsection A, that is driving under the influence of alcohol. There's also Section 23-152 subsection B, which is driving in California with a blood alcohol level above 0.08. We also do periodically see drug cases. So that's a 23-152 subsection F case. And sometimes we'll see a combination. So somebody drives under the combined influence of alcohol and drugs, that's a violation of section 23-152 subsection G. There are also charges that are the same, but including injury, and those are all 23-153. So on that, it would be A, B, G, and F. Typically, somebody will get a misdemeanor unless there's a person who's been hurt in an incident, in which case the first offense can be a felony. It's also a felony if somebody commits 3 prior misdemeanor DUIs and then picks up a 4th within a period of 10 years. And we do periodically charge people with vehicular manslaughters or Watson murders if they're under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or the combination of both, and end up killing somebody as a result of that. As for the penalties, there are various penalties ranging from going to state prison if it's a felony case, or to as little as 6 months if it's somebody's very first offense for a DUI. So very first offense for a misdemeanor DUI has a maximum penalty of 6 months. They can ultimately do a program, a drug and alcohol related program. Those are typically 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months on a first offense. What determines which program they go into are 2 factors. One, did they refuse the California chemical test that they're obligated to take? If they did, then they do the 9-month program. Or if they're a blood alcohol above a 0.20, they do a 9-month program. First offender will do a 6-month program if they're above a 0.15 and did not refuse the chemical test. And anybody who's below a 0.15 would have to do a 3-month program as long as they did not refuse the chemical test. Sometimes we will plead cases down to what's known as a wet and reckless, which is also counts as a prior DUI. If it's a first-time wet and reckless, they have to do a 6-week alcohol class. There are different penalties related to the alcohol class if somebody is a repeat offender. So somebody who's doing it as a third DUI or a second DUI, they would have to do what's known as the SB 38. That's an 18-month program that I'm sure you'll be hearing about here very shortly. And if it's a pled as a wet and reckless, but they have 1 prior DUI, then they have to do the 9-month first offender program.
Can you explain how Bridges Treatment Services became a provider? Meaning, what are the requirements you must meet?
So how we specifically became a provider is so Sacramento County analyzes how many providers are needed in the area. So we're dispersed. Right now there's 3 providers and we're dispersed throughout the county just to make it convenient for clients to be able to drive to, which now we're all online mostly, but it didn't used to be that way. But there was a provider that went out of business, so it went out for bid. And so we applied for the program and we were awarded their spot, which was, the old price. So now we're in South Sac, but again, there's 2 other providers in the north, and so they're all throughout the county to make it easy. So we applied, but yes, it was a process, trust me, to get approved by the state, and then the state comes out at least once a year, the county twice a year, just making sure we're following all the guidelines. It's called Title IX, is the guidelines that we have to follow, and they're very specific, and you have to follow them to a T. But again, it's actually an easy program to run because it is so specific what is required. And as long as you meet all those requirements and the dates and the timing, and it's very specific what needs to happen, it's a fairly easy program to run as long as you stay within those guidelines.
So you have to be licensed by the state,
Yes,
and
you have to be licensed by the state. So we were awarded by the county to be another provider because again, they only want so many providers in the county. So it starts first with the county, how many they're allowing in that county. So Sac County allows so many based on location. And then once the county gave us approval, then we applied to the state. and the state approves, pretty much we maintain our license with the state, and then the state does an audit, and then so does the county on top of that. But we're
Right, so
accountable to the county.
okay, that was my question, because I know that there are pretty strict regulations and
Yes.
compliance monitoring. So is that done through the county and the state on
Both.
different levels?
They're both. I would say the county a little bit more is involved. Wouldn't you agree, Kayla? The county's more involved. There's more there's more of that relationship with the county than the state.
The county comes out twice a year, like Christy was saying. Twice a year, and then the state comes out once every 2 years for us. So our last was, I believe, in 2021 that they came out.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
even when it comes down to like now because of COVID, we're all allowed to do virtual services. So again, that had to be approved by the state. And the amount that we can do now, the state says, well, you can't have 100% virtual on this and that. So there's all these regulations. So it's changing, just like any industry. There's all these changes that we have to keep up with what the state approves and doesn't approve.
Right.
So we have to make sure we stay on top of all that.
Okay. Can you talk about if and how you intersect with the courts? I mean, what is your involvement? So if someone's convicted, and Gregory, you might be able to contribute to this as well. When a DUI offender is convicted, can any of you talk to what happens next if they are sent to a DUI offender program?
So as far as the court side goes, at the time that they're convicted, they'll have a sentencing almost immediately, or sometimes if it's a jury trial, the sentencing will be put out a week or a month or so. At the time of sentencing, they'll be put on a certain amount of informal probation in Sacramento County if it's a misdemeanor DUI. So on a first time misdemeanor DUI, they'll be put on 3 years of informal probation. If it's a second, they'll be put on 4 years of informal probation. And if it's a third, they'll be put on 5 years of informal probation. They're then also ordered by the judge to do one of the programs, depending on whether they refused, what their blood alcohol was, and whether it's a first, a second, or a third. And one of their conditions of probation is to complete that specific program that's ordered by the court.
So on our end, we tend to get phone calls. We've had a lot of what we call pre-conviction enrollments, to where they have gotten the DUI but have not been convicted of it yet. So they're just trying to get ahead of the game and kind of get their program started. And so they will come in, and we will generally enroll them into a 3-month program just to start their process. And then once convicted, we do what we call an upgrade or a downgrade, depending on what their conviction is. And at that time, we do report to both DMV and to the courts that we have enrolled this participant. So they are informed right away of their enrollment.
Let's talk now specifically about your DUI offender programs. Christy and or Kayla, can you describe the different programs you have and the objectives of each of those programs?
So all of our objectives are pretty much the same for the programs. We are working on educating them about patterns of their behavior, identifying their low risk choices, and hoping, of course, to reduce retention so that they do not become multiple offenders. And for the multiple offenders, we do hope that they do not continue to get any additional DUIs. We also do our best to identify a need for a higher level of care. So if they do show signs of potential for a diagnosis of, alcoholism, SUD, anything like that, then we are hoping to identify that and be able to refer them to the right resources. Currently, we do have our wet and reckless, our first offender programs of 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months, and then our multiple offender of 18 months.
And what do they learn in those classes? I mean, is the curriculum the same? And what are the general principles and the teaching objectives for those programs?
So we do have a couple different trauma-informed curriculums that we utilize. One is the Living in Balance curriculum that goes over everything from triggers and cravings to communication and family roles. Really just trying to hit those objectives of identifying that behavior that may cause them to drink in the first place or make those high-risk choices. that we would like them to, sway away against. We are the one program in Sacramento County that has a trauma-informed education program. So for our wet and recklesses, and actually for all of our programs, but they do get the Prime for Life education series, which is trauma-informed and is very informative on the low risk to high risk choices and helping participants identify kind of where they are on the spectrum and how to prevent them from going from a low risk choice to a high risk choice. So we've got some really great curriculums.
Yeah, the Prime for Life is evidence-based. I know that's the big term in curriculum, is to be evidence-based. And so we were one of the first ones in Sacramento County to provide an evidence-based curriculum for our DUI program.
Okay, and how are these classes, I don't know if classes is the right word, how are these sessions facilitated? Are they like a lecture style? Is it more like a counseling discussion style? Is it one-on-ones? Is it a group? How do those programs look in terms of facilitating them?
So the Living in Balance curriculum for their regular groups are process groups, which means that there is a facilitator. So they are facilitating the curriculum, but really it's based on that participant engagement and being able to process with each other what information they're learning and how to apply it in their lives. For the Prime for Life curriculum, it is an education-based, so it is more like a lecture-based program, although we still do, have feedback from the participants while they're going through them. And then they do have their face-to-face appointments that they do, multiple offenders do every other week, and first offenders do once a month.
Are these all individual sessions? It's not a group thing, they're just kind of one-on-one interactions?
The Living in Balance and Prime for Life are both groups. So they are 2-hour groups with their peers. The face-to-face appointments are one-on-one individual appointments with their counselor.
Okay. And Christy, you're saying that these are all online now?
So we offer both. So we offer some virtual and then some in person. It's really client dependent. Some clients prefer to be virtual. Again, COVID changed the world to where now services are all offered virtual, but we're hybrid to where we offer both in person and then also online or virtual services. And then, which actually makes perfect sense for a DUI program to offer virtual services, because if you technically have lost your license from drinking and driving,
That's right.
how can we make it a requirement for you to show up to your DUI school to sit in classes? So
Yeah.
that was always interesting to me. Like, how could it makes much more sense for this to be offered, for it to be a virtual type of requirement to get their DUI requirement done, that you could offer in a virtual setting.
Right.
But now we're all going back to kind of the hybrid model, because there are some clients, maybe even Spanish speaking per se, that they prefer to be in person. So we do offer those in-person classes as well.
We had some people on before who said they participated in some of these programs. Do you have MAD speakers or any outside guests, or?
It's actually a requirement of their DUI that they have to attend a MAD session. They have to.
And that MAD speaker comes out to your program? So
again, that's changed a little bit. It was in person, and then COVID, it turned to virtual, right, Kayla? And now we're hearing that clients want that back in person. So this, just as we're speaking now, just this week, we've been working with the MAD participant for Sacramento County to where we'll start offering those. The providers will take turns throughout the county, and we'll offer those back in person, because we're finding that it might be more impactful to come in person. That's what clients are asking. So right now it's all virtual, but again, now we're going to start offering those MAD classes back in person. But is the MAD component part of your program, or is that a separate thing? It's a separate thing. So it's run by MAD itself. So they run their own they bring in the basically the speaker, the victim who is a victim, and they have their own curriculum or presentation that they do. But it is a requirement to complete any DUI program, no matter where you are. I think it's a California thing, right? It's not just Sacramento County. I'm assuming it's a California state thing, no matter what program you attend in Sac County or in the state, that you have to attend a MAD session as well. What are the requirements for participants to successfully complete the program? I mean, I imagine that they can't just half-heartedly be a participant. So what are they required to do? They need to show up number one. Which sometimes that can be a challenge for people. They
So
need
they
to
can't skip any sessions, or they have to attend a certain number of hours or a number of classes.
So they have to attend, each program has a minimum required amount of times they have to spend in process groups, in educational groups, and in face-to-faces. So it does vary per program. For example, like the 3-monther does have to do 3 individual appointments. They have to do 9 2-hour groups and then our 6 education classes. So it does kind of vary just depending on program, but they are all required to be there actively participating. With our Zoom now, we do have telehealth requirements to be in the camera, not away from your camera. Your face has to be in screen. You can't be doing other things, and you have to be in a private room. They definitely can't show up under the influence, whether it's on screen or in person. So yes, they do have a nice set of rules that they have to adhere to.
What is generally the response of participants?
It definitely varies. Some people are really outgoing and absolutely willing to share their experience, and others are less likely to go ahead and do so. So our counselors are trained in motivational interviewing and do their best to engage every participant as they're going through that 2-hour session. Our hopes is to make sure that every person has a chance to share at least something, even if it's very minimal or very small, but just being able to participate in some of the questions that are asked, or, share how their day went. I mean, we do our best to utilize that motivational interview and engage anybody we can.
Okay, so if they filled, go ahead, Christy, do you want to add something?
I was going to say, and the client is given a schedule ahead of time, so they know exactly what their schedule is. There's no surprises, and it doesn't vary. They technically are once they intake, their schedule is given to them for the entire time frame, all the way out to 18 months. So if you're in the 2 to 4 group, you're always going to be in that 2 to 4 group on Tuesday. You're always in that group. So there should be no question like when you're supposed to be there, because it's not changing. So
Right.
we try to make it as very simple with the clients. So it's a very simple schedule. This is what you have to adhere to. I mean, of course, if something comes up, we do allow certain leaves or excuse absences, but there's only, again, that's where Title IX comes back in. There's only so many excuse absences that are allowed. Another big thing are fees. I mean, that's the big thing with the clients, because this is a program, our other programs are county funded. This program is 100%, the client has to pay for this program. This is part of your DUI. That's, I would say, probably the biggest complaint we get from our clients is that they have to pay for this program. All Sacramento County providers charge the same fee. So that's another thing that the Sacramento County approves. This is what all 3 providers, again, there's 3 in this county, you all will charge the same thing for wet records, same thing for a 3-monther, a 6-monther, a 9-monther, a 8. So we all charge the same. And we usually typically break, no one can typically come up with that fee, the entire fee, because it's expensive. It is an expensive program. So we break it out per month. So there's a monthly fee that is required to pay each month to stay on top of. And if that monthly fee isn't met, then again, that's another reason for being dismissed from the program or be sent back to court. Or so those are the things. And when we're talking about compliance, it's showing up and keeping up with your fees.
What happens when a participant successfully completes the program in terms of your program and then with the court?
So with Bridges, when they complete, so for wet and rec, we don't have to send over to DMV, but we are required to submit a DL 101 to DMV for everybody who completes. And we do send a copy of that to the court, so the court is aware that they completed their program, and we do send a copy to the participant. So the participant has the proof that they did complete their program.
What happens if a participant fails to complete for one of the reasons that you all, Christy and Kayla, you described earlier, whether it's they didn't attend, they weren't engaged, they didn't keep up with their fees?
So basically we notify the court, we put them back on calendar. And so when that date comes up, again, each provider has a calendar date. It's on Fridays, I remember, right? On Fridays.
Yeah,
and then like if it's Bridges Day, we show up, we let the court is aware of, like, there's these 10 10 clients, let's say, for example, that were sent back to court for various reasons. We go in front of the judge and the client should be there and communicate. And then typically, if they want to come back in, then we allow them to reinstate.
We do send, ahead of time, we send to the court clerks the list of people that we will be sending back to court and the reason that they were sent back to court, whether it be failure to make their payments or failure to enroll or any of those things. We do send to the court, and then the court processes the docket, and then we do show up and just pretty much give the judge the report, and the participant, if they are there, they're able to request to be re-referred, and then we just will reinstate them.
And from the side of the district attorney's office, if somebody fails the program, they are technically in violation of the probationary terms, because one of the terms of probation is to do the program. But I've seen typically if someone does fail, exactly what they were talking about, they can get re-referred to the program if they say that they want to try the program again. Normally they'll get a number of re-referrals before a judge will say, okay, that's enough. And then potentially either impose some additional punishment on them or make them do something else. But from our side, we only ever see them typically if they do fail the program or they don't complete the program in some way.
And is that up to the judge completely what happens with that participant if they failed one time or two times, or that's completely up to the judge?
Certain cases will get flagged with more high priority or a specialty case that a district attorney will remain assigned to and follow up on. For example, let's say we had somebody, we've seen this before, it was their 11th DUI, but it happened to just be their third misdemeanor because some of their older cases washed out. Then you might have a district attorney who's paying a lot closer attention to that case and stays assigned to that case even after sentencing. It could go back to court and ask for additional punishments for that person. But for your typical case, you're not going to have a DA necessarily assigned to it and watching it after it has been sentenced. So when those cases come back, it will more or less be up to a judge, but a district attorney can put some input on those cases.
This is all for all of you, these next set of questions. I want to talk about the importance of these programs and the effectiveness of them. Christy and Kayla, I'm going to start with you two. Why you think these programs are important and effective?
Well, I mean, I'll start off and say how important these programs are. It's about safety on the road. So these classes are meant to educate. Hopefully, it's a sting to the participant who received the DUI, not only financially, but time-wise, the commitment that you're going to have to put into to get this taken off your record or be on probation. Because we all know we don't want some family member to get hit by a drunk driver. So it's very important for safety. So these programs are important for that, to educate. It's not treatment per se. I would like to see the multiple offenders, because once you become a multiple offender, there's obviously a problem. So maybe someday they'll require treatment for those multiple offenders. Right now it's not, because that could be concerning. Once you've had 3 or 4 or 5 DUIs, there's definitely a problem there.
Yeah, and I would agree, Shelley, with Christy, that it's really about the safety of, people who are on the road and our participants as well. If they are also on a, provisional license and out there driving, it's for their safety as well. And we want to make sure that they just really get enlightened on making some better choices, choices to keep everybody safe, and choices to maybe take some steps before they have to get to where they were before. So especially those multiple offenders.
What do you think about the effectiveness, or what's the feedback or the observations you've had? Have you seen people, the light bulb come on, or?
I think with anything, whether it's treatment or a DUI school, there's those participants that really take it in and like, this is life-changing. I'm not ever going to do this again. I get it. This program was great. It turned my life around. There's that. And we certainly have those clients that are very grateful. They get it. There's clients we refer to treatment. They realize that they have a problem. They realize in their family there may be alcoholism. So they're grateful to be able to see that change that they can make in their lives because of this program. And then there's the other participants that are, this is just a pain in the neck, and these are these fees. I'm here, I'm going to get it done and just move on in life. And they don't get it. So that we see the gamut. I think that's everything in life. We just see the gamut. So we're just to support as much as we can. And again, it's all about making choices. Like if you are going to drink, just don't get in that car. Or if you're going to use drugs, just don't get in that car. So that's what we're hoping, really, to change behaviors, change thinking, and make them think about it twice before they do that.
And Gregory, this is more specific for you, and then also Christy and Kayla, if you want to also contribute. But in terms of the accountability side and these DUI offender programs being part of the court process, what are your thoughts on that in terms of where the DUI offender programs fit within the court system and the accountability?
It's such an important part of the court process, to be honest with you, Shelley. My goal as a prosecutor, and I think all of our goals, is to educate and reduce recidivism. That's exactly what these programs are there for. We don't want to see people come back to the criminal justice system. I would love if crime ended and everybody put me out of a job, to be completely honest with you. And so these programs help educate the people in our community not to commit DUIs. And it's a very important part at the end of the day. I think most of the DUI offenders we have, they do have one DUI offense and they don't come back. Unfortunately, we do see people who come back with multiple, but these programs are a big part in preventing them from doing it a second or third time.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Christy and Kayla, thank you for sharing what Burgess Treatment Services provides. I will have a link on our website with more information on your organization and your services. And Greg also explaining the DUI charges. So I really hope that this podcast helps explain to people what happens when you get a DUI conviction and some of the other parts of the court system that's really working to try to prevent repeat offenders and stop that cycle. So in our next episode, we're going to discuss how the California Department of Motor Vehicles is also involved in DUI accountability and consequences. So please tune in the next time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Justice Journal podcast. You can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts, and I hope you share them with your family, friends, and colleagues.